The old piano in Maylin's living room had 3 broken keys and hadn't been tuned in years, but it was her most treasured possession. Every afternoon after school, the 16-year-old would sit at the worn bench, her fingers dancing across the yellowed keys as sunlight filtered through the faded curtains of their small home. Today, she was playing a piece by Chopin that she had heard just once on a library computer. Her grandmother, Nai, sat in her rocking chair nearby, eyes closed, a gentle smile on her weathered face as she listened. "That's beautiful, little sparrow," Nai said when May finished. "Just like your mother used to play." May looked down at her hands. She had only vague memories of her mother playing this same piano before the accident 10 years ago. Now it was just her and Nai in this small house on the edge of town, far removed from the music conservatories and concert halls of the big cities. "I wish I could have heard her play more," May said softly. Nai's eyes held a distant look. "She would be proud of you. You play with your heart, not just your hands. That's something no teacher can give you." May never mentioned to her grandmother that the other kids at school thought she was strange for loving classical music, or that her music teacher, Ms. Chen, barely acknowledged her in class. What was the point? Their town had no opportunities for musicians anyway. Playing was just something she did for herself and Nai, a private joy in their quiet life. The next day at Westridge High School, May rushed through lunch so she could sneak into the music room while it was empty. Unlike her piano at home, the school's upright was properly tuned, all keys working. She had 15 minutes before the next class would file in. May placed her worn backpack on the floor and sat down, closing her eyes for a moment before beginning. She started with her favorite Chopin nocturne, losing herself in the music, forgetting where she was as her fingers found each note perfectly. She was so absorbed that she didn't hear the door open or notice Ms. Chen standing frozen in the doorway, mouth slightly open, watching her play. It wasn't until May hit the final notes and opened her eyes that she saw her teacher staring at her. "Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Chen." May jumped up, nearly knocking over the bench. "I know I shouldn't be in here during lunch. I was just—" "How long have you been playing like that?" Ms. Chen interrupted, walking slowly into the room. May looked down at her sneakers. "I don't know. A while, I guess." "A while," Ms. Chen repeated, shaking her head in disbelief. "That was Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. That's a university-level piece. Who's your teacher?" "I don't have one," May admitted. "I just listen and then play." Ms. Chen's eyebrows shot up. "You mean you learned that by ear? With no formal training?" May nodded, uncomfortable with the attention. She'd never talked about her playing with anyone but Nai. "That's remarkable, May." Ms. Chen sat down heavily on a nearby chair. "Why haven't you ever played like this in class?" "I've had you for 2 years, and I've never heard you play anything beyond the basic exercises." May shrugged. "Nobody asked me to." The truth was more complicated. May had learned early that standing out wasn't always good. After her parents died, she and Nai had moved to this small town where they knew no one. Being the new kid, the poor kid, the kid without parents, it was easier to blend in, to go unnoticed. Ms. Chen was quiet for a long moment, studying May with new eyes. Then she opened her bag and pulled out a flyer. "The National Youth Music Competition is accepting applications until Friday," she said, holding it out to May. "I think you should enter." May took the paper but shook her head. "I can't. Those competitions are for students from fancy arts schools with professional teachers. I just play for fun." "What I just heard wasn't just for fun," Ms. Chen insisted. "You have a gift, May, a rare one." The bell rang, signaling the end of lunch. May quickly stuffed the flyer into her backpack, relieved to end this uncomfortable conversation. "Just think about it," Ms. Chen called after her as May hurried out. For the rest of the day, May couldn't focus on her classes. The competition flyer seemed to burn through her backpack. By the time she got home, she had convinced herself to throw it away and forget the whole thing. But then she walked through the door and found Nai sitting at the kitchen table, pale and tired, sorting through a stack of medical bills. "Everything okay?" May asked, setting down her backpack. Nai looked up with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, little sparrow. Just some boring grown-up papers." But May wasn't a child anymore. She saw the past due stamps, the payment plan forms, the letter from the hospital about Nai's heart condition. They had been scraping by for years on Nai's small pension and the part-time job May worked on weekends at the local grocery store. But her grandmother's health problems were making things harder. That night, After Nai went to bed, May pulled out the competition flyer. First prize was $25,000. Even the smaller prizes would help with Nai's medical bills. She stared at the application for a long time before finally picking up a pen. The next day, May stayed after school to talk to Miss Chen. "I'll do it," she said, handing over the completed application. "But I don't have any recordings of my playing or a proper recital outfit or—" "We'll figure it all out," Ms. Chen said, her face lighting up. "I can record you playing on the school piano tomorrow. As for an outfit, I'm sure we can find something suitable." "Why are you helping me?" May asked suddenly. Ms. Chen's expression softened. "Because 20 years ago I was a lot like you. Loved music, had some talent but no connections or money for the right training. No one ever gave me a chance to see how far I could go." She smiled sadly. "I've been teaching here for 15 years, hoping to find a student with real passion and ability. And here you were, hiding in plain sight." Over the next 2 weeks, May spent every free moment practicing. Ms. Chen let her use the school piano after hours and even brought in some of her old music books. They submitted the application just under the deadline. May didn't tell Nai about the competition right away. She was afraid of getting her hopes up. But when the acceptance letter came, saying she'd been selected for the preliminary round, she couldn't keep it secret any longer. "The National Youth Music Competition?" Nai read the letter with wide eyes. "In the city? Oh, May, this is wonderful. Your mother entered this same competition when she was young." "She did?" May was surprised. "Did she win?" A shadow crossed Nai's face. "She made it to the final round. But then your father got very sick and she withdrew to take care of him." She squeezed May's hand. "But that was a different time. You must go and play your best." The day before they were set to leave for the city, Nai had another episode with her heart. May wanted to cancel everything, but Nai wouldn't hear of it. "Ms. Chen will take you," she insisted from her hospital bed. "I'll be fine here. The doctors are taking good care of me." "But no buts," Nai said firmly. "This is your chance, little sparrow. I won't let you miss it because of me." So with a heavy heart, May packed her one nice outfit, a simple blue dress that had belonged to her mother, and prepared to travel to the city with Ms. Chen. The night before they left, she sat at the old piano at home playing softly in the dark. She wasn't playing anything in particular, just letting her fingers find their own path across the keys, pouring all her worry for Nai and her nervousness about the competition into the music. She didn't know what would happen at the competition. The other contestants would have years of professional training, expensive instruments, and proper recital experience. All she had was this broken piano and the music she heard in her head. But as the melody flowed from her fingers, she remembered what Nai always told her. Music isn't about being perfect. It's about being true. Maybe that would be enough. It had to be, for Nai's sake. As the first light of dawn crept through the window, May played the final notes and closed the piano lid gently. In just a few hours, she would board a train to the city with Ms. Chen, leaving behind everything familiar. Whatever happened at the competition, she knew her life was about to change forever. She just hoped she was ready for what came next. May had never seen a building so large. The National Performing Arts Center towered above her, its glass walls reflecting the morning sun. Dozens of young musicians streamed through its doors, many accompanied by parents who fussed over their clothes or gave last-minute advice. Some carried instrument cases, violins, cellos, flutes, while others, like May, were pianists with nothing to carry but their nerves. "Remember to breathe," Ms. Chen said, noticing how May had frozen on the sidewalk. "They're just people, same as you and me." But they weren't the same as May. As they entered the grand lobby, she couldn't help but notice the differences. The other contestants wore tailored outfits and expensive shoes. They spoke confidently about their previous competitions and famous teachers. Many seemed to know each other already, calling out greetings and comparing notes about their chosen pieces. May clutched the folder containing her sheet music, pieces she'd printed from free websites and practiced on her broken piano. Her blue dress, while clean and neat, was clearly not new. And unlike the others, she had no impressive resume of competitions or prestigious summer programs. "Don't worry about them," Ms. Chen whispered, guiding May toward the registration desk. "Just focus on your playing. After registering, they were directed to a practice room where May could warm up before her preliminary round audition. The small room contained a baby grand piano that was worth more than everything in May's house combined. "I'll wait outside," Miss Chen said. "Take your time. Your slot isn't for another hour." Alone with the beautiful instrument, May sat down gingerly on the bench. She placed her hands on the keys, surprised by their perfect weight and response. Compared to her piano at home, this was like driving a luxury car after years of pushing a rusty bicycle uphill. She began to play, starting with simple scales to get used to the touch. Then she moved into her prepared piece, a Chopin ballade that she loved for its storytelling quality. As her confidence grew, she closed her eyes, letting the music flow through her. A sharp knock made her jump. "Time's up," called a voice. "Other contestants need to use this room." May gathered her things, disappointed to leave the wonderful piano. In the hallway, she found Ms. Chen talking with one of the competition organizers. "There's been a slight change," Ms. Chen explained. "They've moved your preliminary audition to the main hall instead of the smaller recital room." "The main hall?" May's stomach dropped. "Why?" Ms. Chen looked uncomfortable. "Apparently one of the judges requested it. Maestro Davison, the head judge." The name meant nothing to May, but the worried look on Ms. Chen's face told her this wasn't good news. "Who is he?" she asked as they walked toward the main hall. "Anton Davison is, well, he's a legend in the classical music world. Former concert pianist, now directs the National Conservatory. He's known for being brilliantly talented and extremely demanding." Ms. Chen hesitated, also for not suffering what he calls amateurs gladly. May felt sick. "Then why would he want to hear me play?" "I don't know," Ms. Chen admitted. "But just do your best. That's all anyone can ask." The main hall was enormous, with rows of plush red seats facing a stage where a magnificent concert grand piano gleamed under the spotlights. Most of the seats were empty, but in the center sat a panel of 5 judges. From Ms. Chen's description, May immediately identified Maestro Davison, a tall, thin man with silver hair and piercing eyes, sitting in the middle of the panel with perfect posture. As May approached the stage, a competition assistant handed her a note. "Change of repertoire," the woman said briskly. "Maestro Davison has requested you play this instead of your prepared piece." Confused, May looked at the sheet music. It was for Elise, a simple Beethoven piece that beginners often learned. She'd mastered it years ago. "There must be some mistake," Ms. Chen protested quietly. "This is a beginner's piece." May prepared Chopin's Ballade No. 1. The assistant shrugged. "Maestro's request. Take it up with him if you want." Before Ms. Chen could argue further, Maestro Davison's voice rang out. "Is there a problem?" His tone suggested that there better not be. Ms. Chen stepped forward. "Sir, with all respect, this piece is far below the level of the other preliminary selections. May has prepared something more appropriate for her skill level." The maestro raised an eyebrow. "I'm well aware of what the other contestants are playing, Ms. Chen, Lisa Chen. Ms. Chen. I've been judging this competition for 20 years. I'm quite familiar with how it works." His eyes moved to May. "And you must be May Lin, self-taught pianist from, where was it?" "Westridge," May said quietly. "Ah, yes, Westridge. Not known for its musical education, I believe." He looked down at his notes. "No formal training, no previous competitions, no notable teachers. Yet here you are at nationals." He smiled thinly. "I'm simply providing an appropriate challenge for your background." Whispers rippled through the small audience of parents and other contestants who had slipped in to watch. May felt her face burning with humiliation. She could see some of the other young musicians smirking. Maestro Davison gestured to the piano. "Shall we proceed? Or would you prefer to withdraw?" May looked at Miss Chen, whose face showed anger but also resignation. They both knew there was no choice. Withdrawing would mean going home with nothing for Nai-Nai's medical bills. "I'll play it," May said, climbing the steps to the stage. As she settled at the piano, adjusting the bench, she could hear the whispers continuing. "Why is she even here? What a joke. Such a waste of time." The magnificent piano now felt intimidating. May stared at the simple sheet music for Elise, a piece so basic she could play it in her sleep. It was clearly meant to embarrass her, to put her in her place. The message was clear: you don't belong here. She thought of Nai in her hospital bed, who had insisted May come to this competition even when she was sick. She thought of the old broken piano at home, where she'd spent countless hours teaching herself to play by ear. She thought of all the times she'd hidden her talent, afraid to stand out. For a moment, her hands hovered over the keys, trembling slightly. Then she remembered something Nai always told her. When someone tries to make you small, that's when you must be biggest. May took a deep breath and began to play. She started with Für Elise, exactly as written, the familiar melody that everyone in the room would recognize. Her fingers moved precisely, each note perfect but mechanical. She could sense the judge's boredom, could practically feel Maestro Davison's satisfaction at having put her in her place. But then something shifted. Instead of continuing with the piece as written, May subtly began to change it. First, she altered the left-hand pattern, adding complexity to the harmony. Then she took the simple right-hand melody and embellished it, adding flourishes and ornaments that Beethoven had never written, but might have appreciated. She saw Maestro Davison sit up straighter, his eyebrows drawing together. The other judges were leaning forward now too. Encouraged, May went further. She modulated the key, taking the familiar tune into new harmonic territory. She increased the tempo, her fingers flying across the keys with growing confidence. The simple beginner's piece was transforming into something entirely different, something uniquely hers. Now she closed her eyes, letting her hands find their own path. The melody of Für Elise was still there, like a thread woven through a complex tapestry, but around it May built layers of emotion and technical brilliance that no beginner could possibly achieve. She incorporated elements of Chopin, a composer she loved, the flowing left hand, the emotional depth. Then she added touches of jazz harmony, something she'd picked up from listening to old records that had belonged to her mother. The whispers in the audience had stopped completely. The entire hall was silent except for the music pouring from the piano. In the final section, May brought back the original Für Elise melody one last time, but played it with such tenderness and emotion that it sounded brand new. She ended with a series of quiet, reflective chords that slowly faded to silence. For several seconds after she finished, no one moved or spoke. May opened her eyes, suddenly aware of what she had done. She'd completely transformed the assigned piece, essentially ignoring the instructions she'd been given. Would they disqualify her? Then from the back of the hall, someone began to clap. Others joined in, and suddenly the room filled with applause. May looked out at the audience and saw that many more people had slipped in during her performance. Other contestants, parents, even some of the competition staff. She glanced at the judges' table. 4 of the judges were applauding along with the audience. Only Maestro Davison remained still, his face unreadable, his eyes fixed on May with an intensity that made her want to disappear. As she stood to bow, May caught sight of Ms. Chen in the front row. Her teacher's eyes were shining with tears, and she mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." Walking off the stage on shaky legs, May had no idea if she'd just ruined her chances or created something memorable. All she knew was that for those few minutes at the piano, she hadn't been thinking about winning or losing, about money or judges or what anyone thought of her. She'd just been playing from her heart, the way Nai had always encouraged her to do. Whatever happened next, she could go home knowing she had done that much, and somehow that felt like enough. Backstage was a flurry of activity. Contestants rushed past, some heading to practice rooms, others returning from performances with faces either beaming or crestfallen. Volunteers with clipboards hurried about, checking names off lists and guiding young musicians where they needed to go. May stood to the side of it all, still dazed from her performance. Her hands tingled as if they'd absorbed some of the energy from the piano keys. She wasn't sure what had just happened on that stage or what would happen next. That was incredible. Ms. Chen appeared beside her, eyes wide with amazement. "May, I've never heard anything like that." "Where did that come from?" May shook her head, unable to explain. "I don't know. I just started playing and then it was like the music took over. Well, whatever it was, you've caused quite a stir." Ms. Chen nodded toward a cluster of people nearby, who kept glancing in their direction. "No one expected that from the girl with no formal training?" May finished. Before Ms. Chen could respond, a competition official approached them, a young woman with a serious expression and a tablet in her hands. "Mei Lin?" the woman asked. "The judges would like to speak with you." May felt her stomach drop. Is something wrong? Am I disqualified? The woman's face softened slightly. No, nothing like that. It's unusual, but not against the rules. They're in the green room. This way, please. Ms. Chen squeezed May's arm. I'll be right here waiting. You've done nothing wrong. Remember that. May followed the official through a maze of hallways away from the bustle of the competition. They stopped at a door marked Judges Only. Go on in, the woman said. They're expecting you. With a deep breath, May pushed open the door. Inside was a comfortable room with plush chairs and a coffee table loaded with pastries and fruit. 4 of the 5 judges sat talking quietly among themselves. The 5th, Maestro Davison, stood by the window looking out at the city skyline. They all turned as she entered. One of the judges, a woman with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair pulled back in a bun, smiled and gestured to an empty chair. Please, sit down, May. I'm Dr. Rivera, and these are my colleagues, Professor Wu and Dr. Tompkins, and of course, you've already met Maestro Davison. May perched nervously on the edge of the chair, hands folded in her lap. Am I in trouble? Dr. Rivera laughed softly. No, dear. Quite the opposite. We wanted to talk to you because your performance was unusual. Unprecedented, added Professor Wu, a thin man with round glasses. The competition has strict rules about repertoire, but there's nothing explicitly forbidding what you did, transforming the assigned piece so completely. It was my idea to give you Fur-Elise, Maestro Davison said, turning from the window. His tone was matter-of-fact, without the condescension he'd shown earlier. I wanted to see how you would handle it. You expected me to fail, May said quietly. The room went still. The judges exchanged glances. Yes, Maestro Davison admitted, surprising her with his honesty. I did. Your application raised questions. No formal training. No previous competitions, a recommendation from a small-town music teacher. It's not the profile we typically see at this level. So you wanted to embarrass me. I wanted to maintain the standards of this competition, he corrected. Every year we get applicants who think talent alone is enough. But it never is. This is a serious profession requiring years of dedicated study. Yet here we are, Dr. Rivera interjected gently, discussing one of the most remarkable performances we've heard from a young pianist in years. What you did with that piece. Dr. Tompkins shook his head in wonder. He was older than the others, with thick white eyebrows and hands that showed the slight curve of arthritis. The harmonic inventiveness, the technical facility, the emotional maturity. Where did you learn to play like that? All eyes were on her now. May thought about lying, about making up a story of secret lessons or a hidden mentor. But what was the point? They already knew her background. I play our old piano at home. It's not very good, some keys don't even work. I listen to recordings when I can, at the library mostly. And I just play what I hear in my head. You improvised all of that? Just now, on stage? Professor Wu looked skeptical. May nodded. Not all of it. The beginning was just regular Fur-Elise. But then I started changing things. Because you were angry, Maestro Davison stated. May met his gaze. Because I wanted to show what I could really do. A hint of a smile touched his lips. Well, you certainly succeeded there. Dr. Rivera leaned forward. May, we've unanimously decided to advance you to the semifinals. Your performance today was exceptional, regardless of how unconventional it was. Relief flooded through May. She was still in the competition. Still had a chance at the prize money for Nine-Eye's medical bills. Thank you, she said. What piece should I prepare for the next round? The judges exchanged looks again. That's what we wanted to discuss, Dr. Rivera said. Normally, semifinalists perform a piece from our approved list, standard repertoire that allows us to compare technical and interpretive skills. But your case is different, Dr. Tompkins added. We'd like to hear more of what you did today. Professor Wu nodded. We're proposing something unprecedented. For your semifinal performance, we'd like you to improvise on a theme we'll give you just before you perform. May's eyes widened. You want me to make something up? On the spot? Essentially, yes, Maestro Davison confirmed. It will be a simple theme like today. The question is whether what we heard was a fluke, a single prepared performance, or whether you truly have the gift you seem to possess. The challenge in his voice was clear. He was giving her enough rope to either climb to new heights or hang herself. You don't have to decide now, Dr. Rivera said kindly. The semifinals aren't until tomorrow. You can think about it and let us know in the morning. No need, May said, surprising herself with her confidence. I'll do it. When she emerged from the green room, Ms. Chen was waiting anxiously. What happened? What did they say? I'm through to the semifinals, May told her, still processing it herself. Ms. Chen clasped her hands together in delight. That's wonderful. I knew they couldn't ignore what you did. What piece will you play tomorrow? That's the thing. May explained the judge's unusual proposal. As she spoke, Ms. Chen's expression changed from joy to concern. That's not fair, she protested. The other semi-finalists get to prepare their pieces. They're setting you up to fail. Or giving me a chance to really show what I can do, May countered. Either way, I already said yes. Back at the hotel that evening, May called the hospital to check on Nai. A nurse put her through to her grandmother's room. Little Sparrow. Nai's voice sounded tired but happy. How did it go today? May sat cross-legged on the hotel bed, twisting the phone cord between her fingers as she described the day's events. The beautiful performance hall, the intimidating judges, the challenge of being assigned Fur-Elise and how she had transformed it. That was brave, Nai said when she finished. Your mother would have been proud. The judges want me to do something similar tomorrow. They're going to give me a theme to improvise on. May bit her lip. I'm scared, Nai. What if I freeze? What if nothing comes to me when I'm on stage? There was a pause, and May could picture her grandmother thinking, her weathered hands folded in her lap, the way they always were when she was giving serious consideration to something. Do you remember the story I used to tell you? About the bird who was afraid to sing? Me smiled. It had been her favorite bedtime story as a child, the one who thought its song wasn't beautiful enough. Yes, and what happened when the bird finally sang? It discovered its song was beautiful in its own way. Different from the other birds, but still beautiful. Exactly. Nai's voice was soft but firm. Tomorrow you will sit at that piano and you will play your song. Not what you think the judges want to hear. Not what the other contestants would play. Your song. The music that lives in your heart. Tears pricked at May's eyes. I wish you could be there. I am with you, little sparrow. Always. After hanging up, May went to the window of their small hotel room and looked out at the city lights. Tomorrow would change everything, one way or another. She closed her eyes and let her fingers move in the air, playing an invisible piano, hearing the music in her mind. Whatever theme they gave her, she would make it her own. She would play with all the love and joy and pain that had shaped her life. Her parents' memory, Nai's strength, the lonely hours at their old piano, the music that had been her refuge when the world felt too large and cold. For the first time since arriving in the city, May felt calm. She was still the same girl who played on a broken piano in a small house on the edge of town. But she was also something more now. Someone who had stood on a grand stage and made people listen. Someone who had turned a challenge into an opportunity. Someone who was no longer afraid to be heard. Tomorrow she would play her heart out. And whatever happened next, she wouldn't be the same person she had been before. The semi-final day dawned bright and clear. May woke early, unable to sleep past sunrise. She stood by the hotel window watching the city come to life. Delivery trucks rumbling down streets, shop owners lifting metal gates, early morning joggers dodging pedestrians on the sidewalks. Ms. Chen found her there, still in her pajamas, fingers moving silently against the window pane. Practicing already? She asked with a smile. May nodded. In my head. I keep trying to imagine what theme they'll give me. Whatever it is, you'll make it beautiful. Ms. Chen placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. I called the hospital. Your grandmother had a good night. She sends her love and says to remember what the bird discovered. Tears threatened to spill, but May blinked them away. Today wasn't for crying. Today was for playing. 2 hours later, they were back at the Performing Arts Center. The atmosphere had changed overnight. Word had spread about the girl from Westridge, who had transformed Fur-Elise into something extraordinary. People pointed and whispered as May walked by. Some of the other contestants even nodded to her with something like respect in their eyes. Backstage was more crowded than the day before. The semifinals were open to the public, and according to the buzz among the volunteers, the main hall was nearly full. Someone had posted May's preliminary performance time on social media, describing it as must-see, and now music lovers from around the city had come to witness what might happen next. "Nervous?" asked a voice beside her. May turned to find a boy about her age, tall and lanky with unruly dark hair. He wore a slightly wrinkled dress shirt and clutched a folder of sheet music. "A little," she admitted. "I'm Theo. I'm right after you." He extended his hand and May shook it. "Everyone's talking about what you did yesterday." "Oh," May felt her face warm. "It wasn't that big a deal," Theo laughed. "Are you kidding? You basically tore up the rule book and then did something amazing. Most of us have been too scared to try anything like that our whole lives." He lowered his voice. "The judges are giving you a theme today, right?" "That's what I heard," May nodded. "Good luck," he said sincerely. "Whatever happens, you've already made this competition way more interesting than it usually is." Before she could respond, a competition official called her name. It was time. The main hall was indeed packed. Every seat seemed filled, and there was a buzz of anticipation in the air that hadn't been there yesterday. The judges sat in the same places, Maestro Davison in the center, watching as she approached the stage. Dr. Rivera stood and moved to a microphone at the edge of the judges' table. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have something unusual for you today. Our next semi-finalist, May Lin, will be performing an improvisation on a theme that she has not seen until this moment." A murmur ran through the audience. This was a significant departure from the traditional competition format, Dr. Rivera continued. "May will be given 5 minutes to look at the theme before she begins. Her performance should last between 8 and 12 minutes. An assistant walked onto the stage and handed May a single sheet of paper. The audience hushed as she looked at it for the first time. It was a simple melody, just 8 measures long, written in G minor. The notes formed a haunting little tune that seemed somehow familiar, though May couldn't place it. She studied it, playing it mentally, feeling its mood and character. There was something melancholy about it, a sense of longing. She thought of Nai in her hospital bed, of her parents whom she barely remembered, of the faded photograph on their piano at home, showing a young couple smiling with a baby in their arms. The 5 minutes passed quickly. The assistant returned to take the paper, and May was alone on stage with the gleaming concert grand piano. She adjusted the bench, took a deep breath, and placed her hands on the keys. The hall was completely silent as she began to play the theme exactly as written. The melody floated over the audience, simple and poignant. May played it through once, letting everyone hear what she'd been given to work with. Then she began to transform it. First, she changed the accompaniment, adding rich harmonies that deepened the emotion of the piece. The melody remained recognizable but now sat atop a more complex foundation. She modulated to different keys, taking the audience on a journey through varying emotional landscapes, from sorrow to hope, from darkness to light. As her confidence grew, so did her creativity. She incorporated counter-melodies, let the original theme fragment and then rebuild itself. Her left hand created a pulsing rhythm, while her right hand spun variations that became increasingly intricate. Throughout it all, she kept returning to the core of that haunting melody, using it as an anchor for her musical explorations. Sometimes it appeared clearly, sometimes it was just hinted at beneath layers of ornamentation. May lost track of time as she played. There was only the music, flowing from some deep place within her, through her hands and into the piano. She closed her eyes, giving herself completely to the creative process. When she finally brought the piece to a close, returning to the original theme but now played with a profound sense of resolution, the last notes seemed to hang in the air for several heartbeats. Then the audience erupted. The applause was thunderous, people rising to their feet calling out bravos. May stood shakily, bowing as Miss Chen had taught her, overwhelmed by the response. Through tear-blurred eyes she saw even some of the judges standing, all except Maestro Davison. He remained seated, his face impossible to read, eyes fixed on May with an intensity that made her uneasy. Backstage was chaotic. Photographers wanted pictures. Other contestants congratulated her. Theo gave her a thumbs up as he headed out for his own performance. But through it all, May felt a strange sense of disconnection, as if part of her was still at the piano, still lost in that music. An hour later, when the semifinals had concluded, the same official who had taken her to meet the judges yesterday appeared at her side. "Maestro Davison would like to speak with you," she said. "Alone this time." May followed her to a small office away from the crowds. Inside, Maestro Davison stood by a window, much like he had the day before. But today he seemed different, less imposing somehow, more human. "That melody," he said without preamble. "Did you recognize it?" May shook her head. It felt familiar, but I couldn't place it. It's from an obscure piece called Reminiscence in G minor, written about 80 years ago by a pianist named Lian Zhong. The name sent a jolt through May. That was my grandmother's maiden name." Davison's eyes sharpened. "Your grandmother is Lian Zhong?" "No, Lian was her family name before she married. Her given name is Ying. Lian Ying." Davison sank slowly into his chair as if his legs had suddenly weakened. "Lian Ying, and she's still alive?" "Yes, she's in the hospital right now with heart problems." May hesitated, confused by his reaction. "Did you know her?" "Not personally, no." He opened a drawer in the desk and pulled out a worn book, a collection of sheet music with a faded cover. "But every pianist of my generation knew of Lian Ying." He opened the book to a bookmarked page and turned it so May could see. There was a black and white photograph of a young Asian woman at a piano, dressed in the fashion of decades past. Below it was a brief biography. May gasped. The woman in the photo was unmistakably a younger version of Nai Nai. The biography described Lian Ying as one of the most promising pianists of her generation and a pioneer of improvisational techniques that blended Eastern and Western musical traditions. "This can't be right," May whispered. "Nai Nai never mentioned being famous. She's just my grandmother who likes to listen to me play." The classical music world lost track of her in the 1970s, Davison explained. There were rumors she had fled political unrest, others that she had given up music after a personal tragedy. He tapped the page. Her distinctive improvisational style was legendary but largely undocumented. Few recordings exist. "But I never had lessons," May said, struggling to make sense of it all. "She never taught me formally, didn't she?" Davison's eyes were kind now. "You grew up listening to her, watching her. Music isn't just learned through formal instruction, May. Sometimes it's absorbed, passed down like family stories or recipes. The way I played today was remarkably similar to the few recordings we have of your grandmother's improvisations. The harmonic language, the way you developed the theme, it was like hearing a ghost from the past." May sat down hard in the nearest chair, her mind spinning. "I had no idea. All those hours I spent playing for her." Tears filled her eyes as pieces fell into place. "She never told me. Why would she keep this secret?" "That's something only she can answer," Davison said gently, "but I suspect she had her reasons." He closed the book carefully. "Your grandmother's legacy was thought to be lost to the music world. Yet here you are carrying it forward without even knowing." "I need to talk to her," May said, standing up suddenly. "I need to ask her." "Of course you do," Davison agreed. "But there's something else you should know first." His expression grew serious. "You've advanced to the finals, May. The judge's decision was unanimous. Whatever happens when you speak with your grandmother, you have earned your place in this competition through your own remarkable talent." May barely heard him. Her mind was already racing back through every memory of Nai Nai sitting beside the old piano, smiling as May played, occasionally humming along or suggesting subtle changes to how a phrase might sound better. All those years, she had been learning from a master without even knowing it. "Thank you," she managed to say to Maestro Davison. I need to make a phone call." As she left his office, May felt as if she were walking in a dream. The person she thought she knew best in the world, her beloved Nai Nai, suddenly contained depth she had never imagined. And perhaps May realized she herself did too. May stood in the hospital hallway clutching the book Maestro Davison had given her. Inside were photocopied pages about her grandmother, concert programs from half a century ago, music reviews in languages May couldn't read, the few surviving photographs of the young pianist who had apparently dazzled audiences across Asia and Europe before disappearing from public view. Ms. Chen waited a few steps away, giving May space. They had come straight from the competition venue, catching a taxi the moment May had explained what she'd learned. "Are you ready?" Ms. Chen asked softly. May nodded, though she wasn't sure how to begin this conversation. How do you ask someone why they've kept their entire past life a secret? Why they never mentioned being famous, being celebrated, being exactly what you dreamed of becoming. She pushed open the door to Nai-Nai's room. Her grandmother was sitting up in bed, looking better than she had in days. A nurse was just finishing checking her vitals. "Little Sparrow." Nai-Nai's face lit up. "I was hoping you would visit today." "How was the competition?" The nurse left and May moved to her grandmother's bedside, setting the book on the small table between them. "I made it to the finals," she said, "but that's not the most important thing that happened today." She opened the book to the page with her grandmother's photograph. "Why didn't you tell me, Nai-Nai?" Her grandmother's smile faded as she looked at the picture of her younger self. She reached out with slightly trembling fingers to touch the page. "Ah," she said simply. "So now you know. Why?" May asked again. "All these years, why didn't you tell me who you really were? What you could do?" Nai-Nai sighed, looking suddenly older and more tired. "Sit down, little sparrow. It's a long story and not an easy one." May perched on the edge of the bed and her grandmother took her hand. "When I was not much older than you, music was my whole world," Nai-Nai began. "I toured, I recorded, I taught master classes. My style was different. Too different for some critics, but audiences loved it." A small smile touched her lips at the memory. "Then I met your grandfather at a concert in Hong Kong. He was studying medicine. Not music, but he understood me in a way no one else ever had." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "We married, had your mother. Those were happy years. But then came difficult times in our country. Political changes made life dangerous for people who had connections to the West, as I did through my music career. Your grandfather was offered a position at a hospital in America. We decided to leave, for safety, for opportunity, for your mother's future." May had heard parts of this story before, but never in such detail. Her grandparents' immigration had always been described simply as looking for a better life, the same as millions of others. "The night before we were to leave, your grandfather went to the hospital to finish some paperwork. There was an accident, a fire. He never came home." Nai-Nai's voice grew softer. "I had to make a choice. Stay and face an increasingly dangerous situation or leave alone with your mother. I chose to leave." "You gave up everything," May whispered. Nai-Nai nodded. "We came to America with almost nothing. My credentials meant little here. The few recordings I had made were not well known outside certain circles. I took whatever jobs I could find to support us. And slowly, music became painful. It reminded me too much of what was lost. But our piano at home, you kept it all these years. For your mother. She had inherited my love for music. I couldn't bear to deny her that, even if I no longer played myself." Nai-Nai smiled sadly. "And later for you. But why didn't you teach me properly? You watched me struggle to learn on my own when you could have shown me everything." "At first it was too painful," Nai-Nai admitted. "But then, I saw something special in how you approached the piano, with no rules, no expectations. Just pure love for the music itself." Her eyes grew bright with unshed tears. "I didn't want to change that. In formal training, sometimes that spark gets lost among the techniques and rules." May thought about the other contestants she'd met, with their years of rigorous training and precise playing. Had their spark been dimmed by all those rules? "So you guided me without my knowing," she said, remembering all the subtle suggestions Nai-Nai had made over the years. A hint here, a correction there. Just enough to help, not enough to interfere with your natural voice. Nai-Nai squeezed her hand. "When your mother died with your father in that accident, music became your comfort, your way of processing grief. I couldn't take that away by turning it into lessons and exercises." They sat in silence for a moment, each lost in thought. "Maestro Davison recognized your style in my playing," May finally said. "He gave me a theme today that was from one of your compositions." Nai-Nai's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Anton Davison? He's still alive? And judging competitions?" She shook her head in wonder. "He was just a young pianist when I knew him, so serious and traditional. He disapproved of my improvisations completely." "Well, he doesn't disapprove of mine," May said with a small smile. "In fact, he seems impressed. The world changes. People change." Nai-Nai looked at her granddaughter with pride. "Sometimes the student becomes the teacher." "I'm in the finals tomorrow," May said. "I don't know yet what I'll be asked to play. Whatever it is, play it with your heart, not just your hands. That's all I've ever wanted for you." May leaned forward and hugged her grandmother carefully, mindful of the IV lines. I will. And when this is all over, I want to hear you play. No more secrets between us, Nai-Nai's eyes filled with tears. It's been so long. Music doesn't forget you, May said, echoing words her grandmother had once told her. It waits. The day of the finals arrived with blue skies and a sense of possibility. The competition had been featured in the morning news, with special mention of the improvisation sensation from Westridge. May's semifinal performance had been recorded and clips were circulating online, bringing even more attention to the final round. Backstage was a whirlwind of activity. Finalists received last-minute touch-ups to hair and makeup. The finals were being recorded for a national broadcast. May, in a simple blue dress borrowed from Ms. Chen, felt out of place among the designer outfits and professional styling of the other finalists. Theo found her hiding in a quiet corner, running through finger exercises. Ready to make history again? He asked, grinning. He had also made it to the finals, much to his own surprise. Just ready for it to be over, May admitted. Win or lose, I've already found something more important. Your grandmother? Ms. Chen told me. His expression grew serious. That's amazing, May. Like something from a movie. Sometimes life is stranger than fiction, she replied. A competition official appeared. 5 minutes, Miss Lin. Theo gave her a quick hug. Go get 'em. The main hall was packed beyond capacity with people standing at the back. As May walked onto the stage, she saw not only the usual judges and music aficionados, but also reporters with cameras. In the front row sat Ms. Chen, and beside her, May's heart leaped, Nai-Nai in a wheelchair looking frail but determined. Having checked out of the hospital against medical advice just to be here, Maestro Davison approached the microphone. For her final performance, Mei Lin will be playing Chopin's Ballad No. 1 in G minor. He paused, then added with the hint of a smile, she may interpret it as she sees fit. Whispers rippled through the audience. This was the piece May had originally prepared for her preliminary round before being assigned for Elise instead. But more significantly, Davison was publicly giving her permission to bring her improvisational style to a classical masterpiece, something unheard of in traditional competition settings. As May took her place at the piano, she felt strangely calm. She glanced at Nai-Nai, who nodded almost imperceptibly. In that moment, May understood what she needed to do. She began playing the ballade exactly as written, honoring Chopin's original vision. Her technique was precise, her expression authentic, but as the piece progressed, she began to add subtle variations, a slightly different voicing here, an unexpected harmonic turn there. Nothing that disrupted the core of the composition, but changes that added her unique perspective to the timeless work. It was a perfect balance of tradition and innovation, respect and creativity. She was neither slavishly following the score nor completely reinventing it, but finding a middle path that honored both the composer's intentions and her own musical voice. When she finished, the applause was immediate and overwhelming. May looked to Nai-Nai and saw tears streaming down her grandmother's face, tears of joy, of pride, of healing. 6 months later, May stood in the wings of Carnegie Hall, waiting to make her debut. The competition win, for she had indeed won first prize, had set in motion a series of events that transformed her life. The prize money had covered Nai-Nai's medical bills with enough left over to repair their home and buy a proper piano. More importantly, it had opened doors neither of them had thought possible. Scholarship offers had poured in. Music critics wrote about the rediscovery of Lian Ying's legacy through her granddaughter. Nai-Nai, her health improving, had begun playing again, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. Together, they had composed the piece May would premiere tonight, a work that bridged generations and musical traditions. In the audience sat Nai-Nai, no longer in a wheelchair but still moving carefully. Beside her was Maestro Davison, who had become May's mentor, challenging her while respecting her unique approach. Ms. Chen was there too, having taken a sabbatical to support May's transition to the conservatory. Even Theo had come, now a friend rather than just a competition rival. As May walked onto the stage to thunderous applause, she felt neither the nervous girl from Westridge nor the polished professional she was becoming, but something in between, a young woman finding her place in the world, note by note. She sat at the gleaming grand piano, adjusted the bench, and took a deep breath. The piece she and Nai had created together,